Alright, folks. So, recently, I've started doing a little bit of research on the Stop Killing Games movement. I've known it was a thing, I've kind of read up on it, I supported it from like a distance, wasn't really active in it. But naturally, in the past few days, it's gotten a lot more traction with a lot more YouTubers speaking about it. Now, you're going to have to bear with me because I don't think I am necessarily the most qualified person to talk about this thing. But I do think it's something worth sharing my opinion on and hopefully introducing others towards what the movement is and allowing you all to make your own informed decision. A lot of you will already know about this movement and a lot of you will know more about it than I do. But if there's even a handful of you in this Nintendo circle of mine that are not quite familiar with it, I think it's worth at least bringing the discussion onto the forefront. Now, straight from their website, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they sold to customers. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to the customers, but it makes preservation effectively impossible. So basically, imagine there's a video game, right? You either spent money to buy it or you just spent a bunch of money on the game over time. It's something you've invested your hard-earned hours on, something you've invested your actual dollars into. It's a game you completely enjoy, but it's entirely reliant on an infinite online support server just carrying it on at all times. Which means if the publisher finds that it is no longer worthy for them to continue allowing you to play this game, they can effectively stop you from playing the game. Meaning all of the hours you put into it, all of the money you put into it is all for nothing. You can't play these games locally, you can't play them with bots, you can't play them with your own servers that you set up. It gets completely and entirely shut down with no way for you to enjoy it anymore. And obviously, that's bad, right? Like prior to, the 2010s, pretty much every single video game you ever purchased, you bought a disc of, you bought a cartridge of, or you bought it digitally. If you want to play that game, there is something to be played on those games, for the most part. But in modern days, these companies sell you these games or they sell you these subscription packs that determine when you can and can't play their titles, and they can effectively pull the plug on them whenever they like. So, I don't know, in relation to the Switch 2, imagine the upcoming Drag and Drive game is just not doing well in a few years from now, and all of you guys decide to spend $20 on there, and then after a while, Nintendo's like, well, we're not going to keep the server running for this, it's kind of pointless, nobody's playing online, and they just unplug it, and you have nothing that you can play anymore. And in fairness, this might not actually apply to Drag and Drive, because Drag and Drive might have some kind of single-player mission mode for all I know. But hypothetically speaking, it's entirely possible that 2 years down the line, if it's not doing well, Nintendo can just shut it down. This movement would force them to include the ability to play with bots, for example, or inclusion of allowing you to play locally online with your friends or split screen or whatever. Again, this is theoretical because I don't know what's going to be in Drag and Drive and how well it's going to do. In any case, over the past year, they have successfully escalated complaints on this problem to consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia. And they've brought forth petitions for the new law on this problem to various countries. Over their website, they've actually documented all this stuff, and a list of the actions taken can be viewed there. Currently, the biggest one that's open is the European Citizens Initiative. They have 595,000-ish signatures, and they need to reach 1 million, I think, within the next month or so. The movement was started by Ross Scott. He argued that when studios make a game dependent on servers and later shut them down, they're essentially selling something with an expiration date. But he's actually gotten a lot of pushback from Pirate Software, Jason Hall, which is ironic because you'd think somebody that is known as Pirate Software would be in support of this kind of thing. But apparently he's like a game dev for some type of live service game. I don't know, look it up. I'm not here trying to stir beef, but this is what I'm hearing. And he is speaking out against it, or initially he called out against it, and has since doubled down against it as well, calling the movement unrealistic and saying that it's dangerous to game devs, and it's saying that the movement is vague. Basically, he's implying that the initiative is too broad and it lacks clear solutions, and saying that it creates legal and technical burdens that most indie studios can't afford, and it could hurt the industry by setting unrealistic expectations. So Ross actually had an hour-long video where he replied to all of these claims from Pirate Software, which I highly recommend watching if you'd like to spend an hour learning about it. Again, I'm not the best source for this, but I'm just trying to do whatever little bit I can to potentially spread awareness on this. So Ross claims that Pirate Software has clearly misrepresented the campaign's goals. The initiative isn't about keeping every live service game alive forever. It's about offering basic access to purchase games, even post-shutdown. And most importantly, Pirate's comments has hurt the momentum during a very crucial phase. Ross said that he offered to talk to him about it. He wanted to educate him on the matter. He doesn't mind if you hate the initiative, but if he's going to hate it, at least hate it for what it is, not what you think it is. And he's very bothered by it because he's in a no-win scenario. Because if he ignored all of these criticisms from Pirate Software, that means that there would be a lot of people that are going to get misinformed about the campaign. And if he actually turns around and addresses these criticisms from Pirate Software, it's gonna look like he's just creating some type of internet drama. And that's not what he wants to do. He's worked very hard on this Stop Killing Games initiative, and that's his primary focus. Now, again, I assume that most of you have noticed a lot of the most popular YouTubers talking about this. And you can pretty clearly see many people are standing with the Stop Killing Games movement in this regard. And I think this is something very important that most gamers should get behind. If you're in the European Union, I highly recommend looking into the signatures. In America, there's a whole other thing going on with the FTC, and you can look at the website for that. But generally speaking, using the law allows you to kind of get a hold on the industry when you can't make a movement against the corporations. Right, I've mostly been pushing voting with your wallet, and that's for quality of games, and the reality is even if you tell people to vote for their wallet, there's going to be a lot of people who are just like, well, my wallet's bigger than yours, so I am voting with it. And I mean, that's fine, whatever floats your boat. But when law is involved, when game preservation is involved, these are workarounds so that even when there are people who are just gonna cover their ears or bury their heads in the sand and not vote with their wallets the way that they should be voting for the sake of the industry, using laws to force these companies to solve our problems is very important. And the victories, no matter where they are in the world, are going to help on a worldwide scale, even though it might not seem like it at first. Like, think about the Joy-Con drift issue that we had. That was not solved because people stopped buying Joy-Cons and stopped supporting Nintendo. That issue was solved because Nintendo was legally required to fix the Joy-Cons. And in general, these legalities are what effectively can and hopefully will allow the gaming industry to flourish, despite this insistence on draconian, backwards, greedy, and money-hungry practices that we see day in and day out from these corporations. Look, I shared some links in my description. I highly recommend finding people that are much more aware of know what to talk about this than I am. Normally, this would be the type of video that I would put a lot more effort into, and I would research a lot more, but the clock is ticking. They don't have too much time left to get these petitions signed. And if one signature comes because of this video, I'll consider it worth it. But for now, I am out. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.